Well, thank you again for having me. And I'll jump into a little bit about myself and RevLocal, but obviously the main thing we're here to talk about today is strengthening your online presence and some tips on how to do that. Specifically, we're going to talk more about local search, review marketing, and paid advertising. So a quick little about me. So I'm AJ Shalton, the brand sales manager here at RevLocal, and I'm based here in LA, actually towards the eastern end of LA out in Laverne, but I lived in Culver City with my wife and my daughter for 8 years. An active member with the Chamber of Commerce, and also active with local B&I chapters and all of those things. So about RevLocal, oh, and one other thing. So I've actually been with RevLocal for 10 years, and fun fact, myself and one other colleague of mine, Dominic, we were the ones who started it here in California. But I'm originally from Columbus, Ohio, which is where we're based out of. So RevLocal, we're a digital marketing agency. We've been around since 2009, and our main core services of what we offer are local search and SEO, review marketing, social media, and paid advertising. But to jump into the meat of the conversation here, so part of those 4 tips, digital marketing tip number 1 is to use your Google business profile to get ahead of the competition. So what is your Google business profile? Well, specifically what I'm referring to specifically what I'm referring to is it's that box when you do a search on Google and you can see about, that has the reviews, the click to your website, the address, and all of that information. It just as of a few months ago, it was called your Google My Business profile, but Google being Google, they're always changing things. So it's now referred to as your Google business profile. And why you should care about this is about 90% of customers, I think we can all agree here, will obviously research your business online. And believe it or not, of that, only about 37% of those Google business listings have actually been claimed on the search engine. So before I go into more detail about that Google business profile, I want you to understand how this all lays out. So this is just a visual example of an anatomy of a Google search. When you search for anything, in this case, a co-working space near me, you essentially have 3 opportunities to show up. That paid advertising, we're all familiar with it. When you go to Google, you'll see those ads at the very top of the page. I'll go into more detail about that later. But right below that is where your Google business profile would exist. And it is in that map pack result right there. And why this matters is about 60%. I mean, just looking here, and this is a visual example, but it's going to be the same on pretty much any search. Look how much space that takes up, right? We're about 60% of searchers go, and it's almost always going to show 3 results. Now, sometimes you will get more, and then obviously you can always open it up to additional, but typically you're going to see about 3 results that will show up there. And then right below that is where organic search results will exist. So what are those, right? Well, websites, third-party platforms like your Yelp, or going to Yelp, or industry-specific platforms. So we like to compare this to Monopoly, right? So you want to own as much real estate as possible, but if you're just getting started out or you're not sure where to start, priority number 1 would definitely be claim and own and build out and optimize your Google business profile. So going into further details about that, the first and foremost, what you have to do, right, is to claim it. And believe it or not, almost every business will have one. Unless you're a brand new business, you won't have one. But if you've been in business for some time, if you have any kind of information out there, over time, one of these listings will just pop up on Google. And you actually, just like you own your business, right? You want to own all parts of that. The same thing exists for this. You actually want to go in, claim it, and then optimize it with things like your proper name, your address, phone number, making sure that you put your website URL and attach it to that. You want to write a long business description. So specifically, you can put keywords and the services that you offer directly on that listing. And another reason why this is really important is because if done correctly, there's no reason for anybody to leave your Google business listing, because I can get everything I want about your business on there. I can call you directly and click through to your website. I can look at your reviews, see where you're located. Um, all of your services could be listed on there. So you want to make sure that you put all of that on there. And then last but not least, just like you would for your website, please invest and then upload in high quality images. So again, whether you are a brand new business or you've been around and you have a listing out there, you want to make sure that you actually claim it and verify it. So how do you do that? Well, you'll go and click on it, or you can go to google.com/verify my business, get your listing added in there, but don't stop there. So I've heard a lot of times where clients will be like, well, I set it up. I think it's done. There's much more to that. The one thing is once you claimed it and started this process, then Google will actually send a postcard to that business address. And you want to make sure you get that postcard because there's a verification code on it. So that's the last step to this, is actually going back into that profile and entering in that verification code, because until you do that, none of that information that you put in there will actually be public. So it's just going to be kind of in hiding. So you want to make sure you get that all set up in there correctly. Taking it a step further, so after you've actually gone through and taken care of that part, you want to make sure that all of the information is consistent and up to date. And I'll go into some more detail on this a little bit later, but next step would be, when you get reviews that come through on there, respond to those reviews in a timely manner, because 30% of customers will say that review responses are key to actually picking you over the other options that show up when they're searching. And then last, take advantage of Google Posts. So on your Google business profile, very similar to what you would on your Facebook business page, you can actually post content directly on there. And taking it a step further, so say you have a promotion, right? And you want to make sure that people see that. You can actually set the date range. So for the entire month of April, you want to run some kind of promotion. Well, you can actually set the date range for that promotion. So from April 1 to the end of the month, you can actually have it so it stays on that profile front and center for that entire duration. Because if not, the posts, those updates will be seen for about 7 days, and then they'll fall off into an archive. So you can still reference them. If you want to make sure that somebody's seeing this on first impression, on the first time they view your business, you want to make sure that you set a date range. But if not, if you just want to put out consistent information, that's why we highly encourage that you do that at least once a week, very similar to what you'd be doing on your Facebook business page. So next, step 2 is, again, taking it a step further, is optimize and create your online listing. So, right, we're talking a lot about Google, right, your Google business listing, but there are roughly about 50 other listings and directories out there that Google looks at. And why you need to take all these other listings serious, just as serious as you would as your Google listing, is that if you want to show up better on Google, which who wouldn't, Google looks at and verifies how you are displayed across all of these other platforms. So essentially, and at the end of the day, Google's not a person, right? So we're not trying to please a person here to show up better. You're pleasing like this algorithm that's constantly scouring the internet. And what they're really trying to do is provide what they feel like is the best option. And they're doing that by verifying you across all these other different platforms. So you want to make sure that you go in and claim all of those other listings. And by doing that, that's what we're referring to with those citations. So all of these other platforms and all these other search results that show up, those are citations. So if they're all saying the clear and consistent information, then you're more likely to be seen as a trusted business, right, to Google. And then that's when you start to see yourself show up better in those rankings. So a manual way to do that, to actually see, well, how am I listed elsewhere, is to just search your name, on your business name, directly on Google. And you'll typically see that search result, depending on if you're on your mobile phone or a desktop browser, your Google business profile will be at the very top or over to the right. Then below that, or to the left of that, is where all of these other websites and listings will exist. So next you'll probably see your website listing, and then below that Facebook and Yelp, and then that's when there's all these other listings. So it's a manual process, but you can actually go in and manually claim each one of those and make sure that your information is correct. This is especially important for an existing business, right? We see this all the time where you set up a listing, and then a couple years down the road you move your office, move address, right? But then you don't go in and update those listings across all those other platforms. So you've updated Google and you think that's good, but then guess what? It reverted back. Well, why is it doing that? It's because you have all these other platforms that still have incorrect information out there, or old information out there about your business. So Bing is one of them, and Yelp and Facebook, and then just go into that search. You'll see all of those other platforms. And if you don't see others, then that's when you want to start putting yourself out there. Now, obviously, there's agencies that can help you with this, but there's also some softwares that you will have to pay for to use that can help automate that process. But again, if you want to do it in a more manual fashion, you want to set up a checklist, and here's some pointers that we have that help make sure that you're doing this correctly. So obviously, find the correct address for your business, and make sure that you're verifying that that's how the address is listed at the United States Postal Service. A perfect example of this, like for those of you that might be based in say Beverly Hills, but you want to be based in Beverly Hills, so you set up the listing, but technically your address is right across the street and it's an LA address, but you're trying to say, hey, no, I'm in Beverly Hills. Well, Google's going to go with how it's actually listed on the United States Postal Service. So verify with how it's actually listed there, and then make sure you're pushing it out in the correct way. Save this information. You can utilize like a spreadsheet. Again, there's other softwares that you can use, but make sure that it's all that information is consistent, and then just keep that up to date. Next, so clean up. So obviously I went into this already a little bit, but make sure that you're cleaning up those existing listings and those citations, that all the information is correct, and then start building out the new ones. And then last is just just to keep track with this. And why I'm saying this repeatedly is just because especially if you're an older business, there is years and years and years worth of old information out there, and you'd be surprised. I've seen businesses that moved 20 years ago, and they still see business or address information or old information from that old address. So you have to go in and make sure that that's all correct. Tip 3, so moving over after you've taken care of that, and you've gotten that set up, you want to make sure that you're owning your online reputation, and obviously you want to get more reviews. So, and why you should is it's very similar to just the amount of people that search online. 90% of customers will look at these reviews. I think all of us have done it, and almost always that's playing into your decision process on who you want to use. Even if I was referred to a business, hey, so-and-so business does great work, you should use them. Well, I'm still going to Google you. And I've actually been referred businesses to use a service, and then I Google them and I'm seeing not so good reviews. And I've actually went against what the person that referred me to them and found somebody else that I felt like looked much better online, because I at least knew that I could trust that. And again, why you should and what customers are looking at in reviews is obviously that star rating. So when you see your Google business profile, the first thing that typically pops out is your star rating. So the same could be said on Yelp and Facebook and all these other platforms, but how does that star rating? Hopefully it's a 5-star or close to 5-star. It's okay. You might have a negative review here and there, but you want to really try to make sure that you keep that star rating above a 4 and up. And there's actually been studies that have shown that a difference between a 3 and a 4-star rating could actually equate to about 10% in annual revenue loss, because there are people that are actually finding you online and not even reaching out to you just because of that star rating. So you really have to own that process. And it's not just about the star rating, right? It's also about the amount of reviews and how often you're getting them. So don't just settle with, hey, I got one 5-star review, I got a 5-star rating, I look great. Because when you do a search result, and there's 3 other businesses that show up, depending on the service, oftentimes, there's businesses out there that have hundreds, if not thousands of reviews. So don't think just because I have a 5-star rating and I have a one or a few reviews that that's enough. You need to maintain consistently getting new reviews on a regular basis. So a step-by-step review marketing plan. So first and foremost, you want to actually go in and audit those reviews and compare it to your competition, right? So as I was saying, you might think you have, you know, a 5-star rating and I'm good, but then you go and look at your competition and they have hundreds of reviews. Well, get ahead of that. Put in a plan in place to actually go in and get more reviews. And then how to do this is actually check in with your customers. You know, if you did a great job, provided a great service or product, and people are raving about you there in the store or there when you're with them, set the stage and say, hey, look, I really appreciate you're saying that. Would you mind writing me a review or giving me some feedback? And they'll almost always say yes, but don't stop there. Take it, actually get it in front of them. So say, hey, I'm going to follow up with you with, you know, an email or a text. I'd really appreciate it if you'd go and write me that review, because don't just assume that they're going to do it, because as soon as they leave the door, life happens, they get a phone call, they forget, and they won't do it. So create a system, a process where you can actually follow up with them via text or via email and actually get reviews from them. Make it easy for them. So create a templated message thanking them for their business and include your Google business listing, include your Facebook or your Yelp listing. So no matter which platform they're comfortable with, you're giving them that option. And when they click on it, it goes straight to that profile for them to write that review. But last, don't stop there. Actually respond to those reviews publicly, because this too will actually have a direct correlation into how you rank online. And also just you getting picked over the other competition that, you know, again, you're going to show up as in search result, but if those other competitors or viewers of yours have a lot of reviews, but then they actually are responding to those reviews, that just shows that you care. So that's actually going to affect consumer behavior. And the same can be said about negative reviews. Don't hide from them. Don't think, oh, well, don't worry about them. That was a crazy customer anyways. Respond to that review publicly. But there's obviously a right and wrong way to do that. You don't want to go into a shouting match or, you know, call them an idiot or something like that. Just be very civil about it, trying to fix the situation publicly. Most likely, they're not going to come back anyways. They could. But either way, respond to it publicly, because that shows the next potential customer that lands on that page, wow, something happened here, but at least they tried to fix the situation. So last, certainly not least, is a paid advertising strategy. So use paid ads to target your ideal customer. And why is because visitors who click on a pay-per-click ad are 50% more likely to purchase something than an organic visitor, because the people that are typically clicking on those ads, they need that service, right? They're ready to find somebody, and there you are, they click on it, and they're going to convert to you. And just taking it a step further, why you should give paid ads a chance. 46% of people that click on ads oftentimes don't even realize that it's an ad. They see whoever's at the top of the page. There you are. They click on it. Let's do business. 41% of those clicks on search results will go to those top 3 ads that are typically placed there. And just overall, search ads can increase your brand awareness by 80%. We like to compare this to the game of Monopoly, right? So going back to that anatomy of a search that I showed earlier, imagine if I did a search for your service and I saw your business 3 different times. I saw your paid ads, I saw you show up in local search, and then I found your website and there's organic results below. It's almost guaranteed that you're going to get somebody to reach out to you from that, because if I was them, I'm thinking, wow, they're everywhere. They must be on top of their business. They know what they're doing. I'm going to reach out to them to potentially do business with them. So some of those types of ads that you can do, and I'll go into a little bit more detail on this, but some brand expander ads, the search ads, which you've seen examples of and you're all pretty well familiar with, those ads that are at the top of Google. The same thing can be done directly on social media. So you can run targeted ads on social media that will show up on people's feeds, and you can target based off of demographics, income levels. There's a lot you can do on social media that you can't even do on Google, but understand the intent's a little bit different. So oftentimes, again, if somebody's going to Google to look for a service, like they need that service now, there you are, you can capture that audience. if done correctly, social ads can do the same thing for people that might be looking for that, but obviously they're not searching on Facebook, but boom, there your ad shows up, and then you can potentially capture them as a customer. Product ads. So if you're more of an e-commerce based business, when you do a search on Google, there's a form of ads that will actually show a product, specifically what I'm looking for. And when I click on that ad, it takes them directly to your shopping cart to make that purchase. So different intent there, but again, if you have an e-commerce platform, you definitely want to consider those product ads. And then last, retargeting ads. So I'll go into a little bit more detail, but some best practices for paid advertising is the message needs to be consistent. You want to make that conversion very easy. So a great way to do that is to set up a landing page that's specific to the type of ad that I'm clicking on. What you don't want to do is create an ad on Google, and then when they click through on that ad, it just goes to your home page where you have all this different information going on that's not relevant to what I'm looking for. That could potentially be a wasted click that you spent money on, and they back out because it's just that ad is not speaking to them. This should go without said. Target the right audience. So I've seen it many times where people are running ads. How many times have you been on Facebook, right? And you'll get an ad from a plumbing company that's based in New Jersey. Like, they didn't set up their ads. They're wasting money targeting people in the wrong area. So you want to make sure that you set up the right target audience. A/B test these ads. So before you really go, wide with your ads, you can run some tests and compare one ad set to another one and read the data, right? All of these ads, all of this, that's one of the benefits of digital, is you can get all of this information to you, and you can see the performance of those campaigns. And based off of that, focus on the ad group that's performing better. And then, sometimes this might become a little daunting to some people. So if this is something that you're not comfortable with, definitely don't just throw money at it. Reach out to somebody that can help you. Brand expander ads. So this is a great option because compared to search ads, brand expander ads, which are just display campaigns, are typically pennies on the dollar cheaper compared to search ads. So what we like to say is, where search ads will meet demand, brand expander ads actually create demand and that name recognition. I always like to compare this to, it's an online billboard, right? So for us here in Southern California, you might not want to use them, but when you think of a personal injury attorney, we all think of Jacob and Ronnie, right? Well, why is that? It's because his billboards are on every freeway, everywhere you go. It's name recognition. So these brand expander ads can be done the exact same way. It's an online billboard. You can target anybody within a set, we call it geofencing, but so I'm based here in LA and I want everybody within a 30-mile radius to see my ad. You can set up those parameters where anybody that's online can actually see these ads. Where these ads exist, it's a part of what's called Google Display Network. And what that is essentially any reputable website that you've ever been on is a part of Google Display Network. ESPN.com, any news site that you go onto, weather sites, YouTube, all of these platforms are a part of the Google Display Network. So if you set these up correctly, anybody that ventures onto these sites will see a banner for your business showing up elsewhere. So when should you run these type of brand expander ads? Even if you haven't opened yet, you set up your Google business profile, you can set it up to where it shows when you are opening. You can still get started with these brand expander ads to really create that brand awareness for you and let people know, hey, opening soon in this area, and you can put that in the ad. Or if you've relocated, right? So I moved locations, or I'm a restaurant that was located over here and I moved to a new spot. Hey, we've moved, come check us out. So anytime you relocate, it's a great time and a great opportunity to run these ads. Or again, like if you have a product that you're trying to sell and you have a new product launch that just came out, this is another great way to get the awareness out for those type of ads. And the last piece is retargeting. So retargeting campaigns. What are retargeting ads? Well, we've all seen them, right? You visit a website, then you leave that website, and then as I go elsewhere, I start to see that business showing up on all these other websites. Those are retargeting campaigns. This is great for if you have a little bit longer of a buying cycle, right? Or again, if you just really want to make sure that you're staying on top of mind of people that have already shown an interest in you, retargeting campaigns are a great way for you to stay top of mind. So maybe I'm shopping you and 3 other businesses right now, and I'm going through those options, and I'm checking back and forth and going to websites. I'm talking to people, getting some quotes on things, but I still see your business showing up. That just makes sure, that just ensures that you're staying top of mind with them and they remember you along the way. So site visitors who are retargeted with display ads are 70% more likely to convert on your site. So don't think that just because you run an ad that you're going to get somebody that will instantly click through that ad and, hey, let's do business. Again, it could take a little bit of time. It could take days, it could take weeks, or even longer. So by adding in this retargeting element, it's going to make sure that they remember you along the way. So to wrap it up, some key takeaways here. Get started first and foremost, priority number 1. Start with your Google business profile listing, really optimize that, make sure it's set up correctly. This is free to do if I didn't mention this already, so take advantage of it. Clean up your current citations, and then if you haven't already, start to build the new ones. And then from there is optimize your website for desktop and mobile devices. So make sure that it's going to look clean no matter which platform you're on. Respond to reviews. Don't be afraid to request them. So again, just because you ask somebody to write the review, don't expect that they'll do it. So follow up with them and make it easy for them by creating a templated message that goes out to them with links to those platforms to write the review. So keep your message on paid advertising consistent. And then last but not least, if you're just like, where do I start, or I'm struggling with this, reach out to an expert. Shameless plug here, but even if, there's as part of the SBDC, there's a lot of resources on their site. You can reach out to them directly and they can gladly refer you. And then there's even sites that offer, a freelance person that could do this for you as well. So there's a lot of different options out there, but work with an expert if you feel like you're not comfortable with this. So just to wrap up, here's my contact information. If you do want to reach out to me directly, 310-405-1339, and then there's my email address that you can contact me directly on as well. So thank you for your time.